work with people here to change that. I appreciate an opportunity to visit with you. You've seen some of my statements. You probably don't need for me to repeat that. You probably have things that you want me to repeat with leading questions or something, and I welcome an opportunity to provide responses that matter to you and matter to the folks out there.
Where do you see the future going,
Well, what kind of a question is that, Pat? Where do I see the future going?
As far as Congress, will there ever be two parties that can work together?
I think there will be more opportunities for people in Congress to cooperate. I'm proud that virtually all my legislation was designed to bring people together rather than divide them. And we've had some remarkable successes. The NAFTA revision was dead on arrival when it was delivered by Trump, and we spent a lot of time and energy bringing people of different points of view together, and it passed overwhelmingly with Republicans and Democrats. My bipartisan agenda really does bring people together in ways that they find satisfying. What we're doing with the most amazing array of energy legislation, not just in our history, but anywhere in the country, that's in the pipeline that can be transformative in terms of fighting the challenge, the threat of climate change. It's going to be a bumpy ride for a while. Some things the Republicans just have to get out of their system. I mean, they have elected a guy who is a climate denier, who tried to overturn the election. In fact, that was one of the reasons that his path to be Speaker was smooth. But that's not where the American people are going. And increasingly, there are strains on my Republican colleagues that there's a price to be paid for this. And the public is not there. The public is tired of this insane process. It has not changed any of the basic math. They don't have the votes for something that will dramatically reduce the deficit and that they can agree on. They're ultimately going to have to work with Democrats, and we will move to approve something that's remarkably like the agreement that we all came together on in the spring. 149 Republicans voted for it. And ultimately, that is, I think, where they're going to end up, and there will be Democrats to join with them. But it's going to be a painful process. But I, after having spent a lifetime working on these things, and more than half my life in Congress, I remain optimistic that we can, in fact, put these pieces together if we're aligned with the public and we're open to working with the governing wing of the Republican Party. It's a little schizophrenic with some of them. They're making warm noises, but they're voting to hold America hostage. And I think that's likely to end. It also makes it amazingly certain that Democrats are going to be in control in the next Congress. And that was a little bit of the sticking point. I would look forward to being back, being a chair of one of the Ways and Means Committee and being able to guide some of this stuff. But there will be colleagues that will step up and do it, and it was time for me to move on.
Congressman, I know you said you're not planning to endorse a successor, but when you're casting your vote in the primary next spring, what are the kind of qualities that you would be looking for in a good candidate to Congress?
Well, I will make no secret about the things that I feel strongly about, and I will share those criteria with other people. There will be no shortage of people who will step up who I think can do a good job for this congressional district. There have been people who've been circling the seat for years. Every time there was a change of administration, they'd come out to urge that I be selected as the Secretary of Transportation so there'd be a vacancy that they could run for. But there's some good people. And one of the things I have been doing, as you have probably noticed for the last few years, is working with new, young people in the political process, legislators, school board members, metro councilors. And there are some remarkable new people who are in the process now. So I will make no secret about my goals and priorities. In fact, I'm working on a wrap-up report that's got more information than it should, because we've done so much work and I want to make sure that it's not wasted. I will share that. I'm not going to get involved because there will be a range of good people. I will make an exception politically if I think an endorsement makes a difference for control of the House, or there's somebody who's being quite destructive. But I'm going to let that settle for a while. I'm not going to rush in. One of the good things about the announcement is I can spend less time on politics, and the politics I'm involved with is not look at me, vote for me, contribute to me. It's instead the agenda and trying to help keep us on track.
For whoever your successor is, what advice would you have for them in contributing to a Congress that's more productive and less divisive?
Great question. Well, in fact, what I will do is I will be sharing with them a letter that I give to every new member of Congress. I've had this tradition now for over a decade. I've worked on things that I wish people had told me and my family when I was first elected. And it's well received. It's now, I think, over 7 pages long, because there are things in terms of how you handle it personally, how you make sure that your family doesn't pay the price, being able to make sure that you can manage with staff and constituents. So I'll be sharing my little pearls of wisdom with early with people who want to run in this seat.
Congressman, you talked about wasting work, and I noticed two of the one-pagers you've got. One is bikes, one is livability. We're in a much different time now than when you were Portland Commissioner in terms of the foundation you set for both of those things, bicycling and livability. And I wonder if you worry all about your legacy being wasted or squandered, given how bicycling has been declining and there's currently no champion in Portland City Council really for cycling, and I wonder if that weighs on you at all. And then the second part is, when you come back and settle back at home, are you going to be helping to right that ship at all?
Well, I'm not going to abandon bike partisanship, whether it's here or around the country. I was mentioning to you in Bentonville, Arkansas, of all places, with some of the Walmart organization who are keenly interested in it. I think what we've done in this community is establish a bike culture, and you can't avoid it walking or biking or, God forbid, driving around Portland. It's pretty firmly embedded, and we've got some people who are strong advocates, and the infrastructure here is good and it's getting better. We've got opportunities in a way that we've never had before. Working with my colleague Peter DeFazio, who discouraged me from staying on the T&I committee, transportation, and instead go to Ways and Means where I could raise money for him to spend. Well, we did a pretty good job of that. And this last Congress produced more money for biking, for transit, for Amtrak than ever before, and a very ambitious agenda to be able to reduce carbon emissions. So we've got these pieces in place with federal policy. We've got some amazing advocates here. I think it's a matter of putting the pieces together. I think in the next election, I think there will be more people who are willing to embrace and move it forward. So I think it's just a little below the surface. We've got tremendous opportunities in cycling, transportation infrastructure, extending the streetcar 1 mile to Montgomery Park opens up 5,000 housing units. What we're doing on 82nd Avenue, the #1 transit street in the entire system, and the commitment to improving traffic safety, which I hope becomes a higher priority for the general public, and I'm sure it will be for the people who run for office this next year.
So what difference does it make to have people who've been in Congress for 4 years who know how it works, and what can the current delegation and your successor do to make sure that Oregon still has a strong voice to the
Yeah.
table?
Well, I think it's a fair question to ask, and it was one of the things, frankly, that made my decision to leave difficult, because I put together a position in the House of leadership, of seniority, and it made the decision difficult. And in losing Peter DeFazio, Greg Walden, it's making a difference. But first of all, we're getting new members with new seniority. And I've already heard from Val Hoyle and Congresswoman Salinas, or even across the river with Marie. They're, I think, on a path to gain traction in seniority. We still have 2 U.S. senators. Ron Wyden has been in office almost as long as I have, and he's been in the federal government longer. Jeff Merkley has really established himself. So I think the combination of working with the Senate half of the delegation and new people who are willing to learn and extend themselves, I think we'll be all right.
On the flip side of that, with nearly 3 decades in office, is there a need for term limits to ensure people don't get so entrenched in the Congress?
Well, term limits, the notion is stop me before I vote again. If I had been term limited in 3 terms or 4 terms, I wouldn't have been able to do this. You don't understand how to make the system work. You don't build the national credibility. You don't have a staff that has a tradition of being able to deliver. That takes time. Now, some people think you can do it in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. These are the same people, I'm sure, who want term limits for brain surgeons. No. When things matter, people want experience and expertise. And if we don't exhibit expertise and being able to produce results, we've got a solution for term limits, which is vote them out of office. I accept that.
Congressman, you're 75 years old now. Can you maybe just look back through your history and talk about how the time has, does it seem like it's gone fast? Does it seem like you first got elected yesterday, or has it been long and difficult, or some combination?
I think it's safe to say, Pat, some combination. Some of these things are a lot harder than when, for example, when I was in the city council. I can't imagine doing that job with some of the cross currents that the current city council has faced. It's really very destructive. Social media, you know what, it was almost like we had smoke signals, you know, and now you can't get out of a meeting without reading about it in various blogs, and it's insidious. And of course, it empowers the people who will make the craziest claims to be able to get attention and campaign contributions. And that's a lot harder. But it has been, I would say, almost uniformly rewarding. I mean, I'm lucky to get up in the morning to try and make the world a better place. That was my job. And I had a tremendous group of primarily young people, some of them not so young anymore, who work with me on staff, and relationships that I built. It's not like it flew by, but I've been in the process of reviewing literally 54 years of full-time political activity since I was a junior in college and gave my first testimony before the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. The more you're involved with things, the issues that are fresh, it's not stale, it doesn't bog you down, and it adds an element of excitement, and it keeps your constituents, it keeps your staff energized themselves. Much of what I've done is not so much me, but having the brains to hire some nice people, or at least keep them with me. That's made a tremendous difference. I was just moved last night. We had a little going away party with an announcement, and there were people from all over the state, and in fact some people from out of state, who showed up that were part of that process. And that's part of the political equation that most people aren't aware. They don't appreciate what these largely young, dynamic, energetic staff members do for us, do for them. So it has actually gone pretty rapidly, as I'm in the process of doing wrap-up memos on about 40 different issues. There are some things that I've forgotten what we did. So that's sobering, it's fun, and I hope we leave a package in the exit memo that is useful for people who come after me and people who want to be involved in the political process.
What are you walking away from that you haven't accomplished that you wanted to?
Well, part of what I have done is to engage in a wide variety of policy initiatives that are a lot further along than when I started. Cannabis legalization was not supported by the public when I started that battle. Today, a majority of Republicans support it, and I've been involved in state initiatives all over the country. Work that we've done with international water and sanitation. I've been hammering away at trying to make inroads in Gaza in this horrible humanitarian crisis before the war, in terms of not having safe water. There's a lot of work to do in that regard. But I think the progress is encouraging. And this is another area where it's possible to bring people together on things that don't have to be partisan. I'm working on a program to be able to have therapeutic food packets to prevent young people from starving to death. And we're working on a $1 billion program that would basically eliminate chronic wasting disease. Having a chance to follow up on what we did with illegal logging and climate and the challenges of disaster preparation. These are still works in progress. There's a good foundation, but we've got a lot more to do, and I plan on working on those for the next 14 months, and some of those I will work on after I leave office because they're critical.
With no election to really lose in 2024, is there anything that you're going to champion in the next 14 months that could be controversial or not as popular for people to have to worry about winning the office?
Well, I have a pretty good record of championing things that aren't popular, but I thought they were right. And I'm going to, one of the things I think I should have done differently, even though I'm proud of leadership that we've provided on lots of very important controversial issues, there are probably more of them than I should have, and having concentrate on a narrower range of issues would make it more likely that you deliver. I'm going to try to finish our transportation agenda nationally and here locally. 82nd Avenue is the #1 transit street in the entire TriMet system. We've got some money there to make it safer and to have housing opportunities, or by extending that streetcar up to Montgomery Park, that's 5,000 housing units. Part of what we need to do here, providing affordable housing, is more opportunities to develop it. I plan on working on that nationally and locally. Part of the agenda is to continue with the climate. I mentioned that provisions that I authored were enacted into law. The largest program of energy efficiency, fighting climate change in our history, of the history of anybody. But there's a lot of hard work to try and implement it, negotiating with the Biden administration Treasury Department, and to help people understand what's there. how to use this gusher of money that has been unleashed. And we have, for the first time in my congressional career, we've got an administration that is committed to rebuilding and renewing America in a way that's equitable and low carbon. We've got the money in the pipeline. We need to have people access it. And that's a major priority for me that'll make a difference here and around the country. Is that a wrap? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No. Appreciate your help.